iPad Pro. Ooh. Your channel. My channel. Live now.
Yep, that is live.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Are we live on the recorder? Yep, we are.
We are. We're live everywhere. Maybe do a 10 seconds of silence. Don't look at me.
Can I tell you how much I wanted to slap you on 10? Like, just...
All right, guys. So we're going to do a quick...
Podfix exclusive.
Yeah.
We wanted to do a
It's part of
podcast
the
discovery
Podfix
show.
mixtape, right?
No, it's March Madness.
Oh.
So for March Madness,
I'm out of the
Podfix
loop.
is putting together basically about a show a day for the entirety of March because we have a bunch of great shows on our network.
We really do.
And so everybody's doing a featured show for Podfix exclusively. And I did Creators Cove last week. We are doing the PDS right now. And Florida Man has coronavirus and is AWOL.
I got to give him a call and see where he's at. See if he's
Yeah,
okay.
you need to figure out if he's okay. I am concerned at this point.
I'm concerned.
But we wanted to bring a podcast because, and first of all, you can check out any of the shows on Podfix. We've checked out a lot of them already.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great stuff on there. We've covered many of them.
Mm-hmm.
We've covered many of the shows that are on our network on our show as well. But today, actually, let's start it the right way.
Welcome to the Podcast Discovery Show, the podcast that's about other podcasts. I'm Kirk.
And I am Zach.
And this week, we are doing a specific special episode for the Podfix Network. Just for you guys.
And we decided to talk about the Filmmakers Podcast. It's one of the ones, like he said, on our network. And the hosts, there's 4 of them. On this episode, there's 2, but there's 4, and I think they take turns. Giles Alderson, Dan Richardson, Andrew Roger, and Christian James discuss how to get films made, how to actually make them, and how to try to not F it up, in their very humble opinion. And really this comes down to people that are in the film industry, talking to other people that are in the film industry about very practical ways for any independent filmmaker to get out there and make their first film. They mentioned that several times in the episode, and it really comes down to them having expertise in the field and gaining really interesting insight from whoever their guest is.
Yeah, and I really like how they kind of spotlight like an indie film that's releasing, like having a premiere or something like that. They talked about one that was actually premiering in Fort Myers, not too far away.
No.
And I thought that was a really nice touch, helping spotlight some other indie producers, directors, filmmakers.
Yeah, so this episode we're talking about is featuring Scott Adkins, which if you haven't heard of him, one of the most prolific martial arts actors right now, especially from the West, essentially, because still obviously China, and they have a ton of action martial arts actors who are just still amazing, and a lot of these guys are also legendary, and he talks about this in the episode. But he's an incredible martial artist. He's starting to pick up a lot more major roles, and so they dig in with him about a lot of different elements of kind of the filmmaking process. And yeah, exactly like what Kirk said, they start out talking about independent films, and they do a lot of spotlights on different things that they find interesting and they want to draw attention to. But then they dig in with Scott Adkins, and he has been in a lot of films, but a lot of them are kind of just action movies, just martial arts movies. And so that's not a hugely popular genre across the board, but I love it. I love it. Like the people that he was talking about being a fan of, these are people that I am a fan of. Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Donnie Yen, Tony Jaa, all of these guys I've seen.
Yeah, I remember you growing up. You were my friend that loved martial arts movies.
Oh, still do. It's I don't know what it is about it, I don't know, but I love it. I still do.
I grew up I grew to appreciate them because of you. Because I watched a little bit, but it was your appreciation and forcing me to watch them when I came to your house that made me appreciate them a lot more.
Yeah, and it's funny because like he mentioned Jackie Chan and Tony Jaa, and Jackie Chan he's fairly old at this point. I think he's 70
Yeah.
ish, and Tony Jaa got started. Which if you haven't seen anything with him, Ong Bak Thai Warrior, The Protector, go watch him. The guy is incredible, and Scott talks about filming with him and how hard he kicks, and you can tell that in the movies he looks like he is just kicking people through the room. But he also got started because of watching Jackie Chan. He watched Jackie Chan as a kid, and he thought that was just something everyone should be able to do. Jackie Chan running up walls and doing these crazy stunts. And I'll link in the show notes. There's a really, really cool, it's an old YouTube channel. They ended up shutting it down, I think just because the amount of time it was taking for them to do, and they just had life things happen. But it's called Every Frame of Painting. I think we've talked about it maybe on Todd's at one point. But they break down how to shoot an action film with Jackie Chan. And the key to that is 1,000,000 takes. He would take hundreds of takes for one stunt just to make sure that he got it perfectly executed the way he wanted it to. And so people like Scott Adkins and Tony Jaa grew up watching Jackie Chan and were inspired by what he did. And now both of them are kind of the next generation.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll be honest, I didn't know who Scott Adkins was. Now that I've seen him, I'm like, oh yeah, he's in this movie. Movies that I've seen, I'm pretty bad at knowing actors and stuff anyway.
Yeah.
That's never been my thing. But we watched like some highlights of some of his fight scenes. This dude's jacked.
Yeah, he is a large man, and you can tell that he's a real fighter. And also one of the main distinctions, I think at least, from kind of American action movies to the Hong Kong style, like he was talking about. Hong Kong style, you step back and you watch all the action. You just watch action play out in front of you. American style, it's jump cuts, and so you jump to so you punch and then you cut. And then you cut to someone getting punched, and so it feels choppy.
Yeah.
Whereas Hong Kong style is very
Fluid,
almost dance-like, and very fluid's a good word for it too. Where it's more of a whole set piece that is very extreme to deal with, and Scott Adkins can go there because he's a really, really talented martial artist. And so in this episode, first of all, this is just kind of in my wheelhouse. Anybody who's been listening for a long time would know that this is something that I would be interested in, because they talk to him about everything from different ways that different directors have worked with him, because he talks about being an action star and being so familiar with what they're doing and trying to work with directors to make sure that the action scenes are playing out like how he think they should be.
Yeah, that was interesting. Him talking about collaborating with the directors or
taking the reins even.
Yeah.
And so they really get into, if anybody else is inspired by film, likes film, aspiring filmmaker, it really can be for a wide variety of people, but they really do dig into practicalities of, I think at one point they asked him, how would you like to be approached by a director on collaborating? Because both of the two hosts on this one, which I believe was Giles and Christian, were the two who were talking to Scott. And both of them were interested from that lens of a director working with an extremely talented actor / action martial artist. But he also has worked on so many films, and he's worked with incredible filmmakers, that he has insight that they were probing for. They were trying to understand some of the things that they could learn from him. And so really it comes down to they're trying to learn new things about filmmaking. It really opens it up for, if anybody else is interested to learn new things about filmmaking, you can also do that.
Yeah. It was an amazing show. This is one I hadn't listened to before yet on our network. We've got a decent bit of shows on our network. There's some we haven't covered, and there's some that I've listened to but we haven't had a chance to cover yet. We will, but we just haven't had a chance yet. And this is one that I'm like, wow, we're in a network with them.
Yeah.
They're really good.
Yeah, and I mean,
I really did feel kind of impressed. I'm like, ooh, we're in good company.
They've interviewed some pretty significant people. Mark
They did
Strong.
Daniel Radcliffe?
Really?
No, directing Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but still, that's
Yeah, no, Rupert Graves, Mark Strong, and I guarantee that's Mark Strong right there. I'm talking to Kirk. I know that you can't all see it, but he's in a lot of different movies.
oh yeah,
I think they talked to him about Kingsman.
yeah.
He's in a lot of things. They've talked to really interesting people, and because they're directors, they're not just interested in finding whichever A-list celebrity they can get on there. Although I'm sure they love to talk to them, but they love to learn new things and they love to dig into different perspectives of the filmmaking process. So you can get a wide variety of different perspectives and different roles in the filmmaking.
Yeah, I mean, you get a noob like me that's not a big movie buff. You know, I don't know the names of directors, so there might be like a ridiculous popular director, but I don't even know. You've told me like, oh, this is a great movie because of this guy. I'm like, I don't know that name.
Yeah, no, and I mean it can go writers too. They have writers of popular screenplays. They have actors. They have directors. They have basically whatever. They're trying to dig into not just one aspect of filmmaking, but filmmaking as a general area. And so it's a really fun, a really awesome premise for a show. They do a great job of finding the intricacies that each of their guests specifically has, and they do a great job of trying to highlight those things and learn while they're doing it.
Well, great show, Filmmakers Podcast. We are excited to be on the same network as you.
Absolutely.
We're excited to do this mini episode for our Podfix March Madness. And yeah, if you want to hear more like this, you can listen to us on the Podcast Discovery Show. We pick a podcast every week. We listen to it. And the next week, we sit down and in book club style discussion, we kind of talk about what we got from it, what we loved about it, maybe some things we didn't like about it. And it's a fun discussion, and we love people to be involved in that discussion.
Absolutely. So yeah, check out the Filmmakers Podcast.
It's an amazing show.
Check out Scott Adkins for sure. It's incredible. And honestly, check out this specific episode too. There's some really awesome conversations because Scott Adkins was in The Expendables. Mm-hmm. So if you are an action star, that's kind of the pinnacle for you.
I loved him talking about working with like Stallone and
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, Van Damme. Yeah,
because he was that was a really interesting part of this. Is kind of that was his. I'm going to be an action star because he watched Bloodsport, and if you haven't seen Bloodsport, go watch it. It's awesome. It's a really awesome movie. But he saw this movie. That's what made him want to be involved in this industry, and then he ends up working with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I think he's like his like bodyguard type position. And this was also at a time where Van Damme had been kind of out of popular mainstream movies for a long time, and then he's in The Expendables. So then you get that perspective of like, oh, he's a little nervous because he's making a comeback essentially, working with all these guys. And I mean, if you look at The Expendables, we're talking legends. Mm-hmm. Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Jet Li, Jason Statham. They tried to see what kind of
Terry Crews.
No, I agree.
He's in there, right?
Terry Crews is great.
I love Terry Crews.
I really love him.
He's just giant.
He is. Yeah, I mean, former football player, but just a great person too.
He's so cool.
It's a great combination. But no, to just work on that type of a set is incredible. So seriously, check out this interview. It's extremely interesting, and you just learn a lot. And he was in a Bourne movie, so he had a fight scene with Matt Damon.
One of the Bourne movies.
It's a really great interview, so definitely check it out. Absolutely love this podcast.
Yep. And remember,
there's always more to discover.
Wait, that's just supposed to be you. I don't know why I took over with that. Here, give me a second. I'm going to grab that package. No one's watching right now. I want to see what's in this stupid thing. The video actually looks good.